And the first thing I want us to notice about Saul of Tarsus is that he was a defiant man. He was an enemy of God. And the truth for us today is that a defiant person is God's enemy. If we look back at the last part of chapter 7, we read the account of the stoning of Stephen. Remember Stephen, the first Christian martyr. And if we go on to the first verse of chapter 8, we read these words. Now Saul, that would be the same Saul of Tarsus who became Paul, now Saul was consenting to his death. Speaking of Stephen. How could this really be the man whom God would use to spread the gospel to the Gentile world? To give us more than half of the New Testament. Look back at chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Saul was consenting to his death. At that time a great persecution arose against the church, which was at Jerusalem. And they were all scattered throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. And devout men carried Stephen to his burial, and made great lamentation over him. As for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering every house and dragging off men and women, committing them to prison. Saul represented everything that was wrong with the Jewish response to Christianity in the first century. He was a Hellenistic Jew, highly educated. Perhaps he was even one of those that's mentioned back in chapter 7 who had been arguing with Stephen and debating with him prior to Stephen's death. But he was also full of energy and full of zeal. And these were characteristics God would use to spread the gospel. Characteristics God saw as positives.